Alright, so Hiyuki is yet another Liberation Sword DPS, same as Aemeath. So the big question is, how does she compare? Is she strong enough to steal Lynae for Aemeath? And if she does she still need Chisa? Let's find out the answer together with the real testing in the towers in Whimpering West. Fully free to play, no signature weapon, no sequences. So let's see what she can really do. Alright, so let's start with my S0 Hiyuki build, using the classic free-to-play weapon, the R1 Emerald of Genesis. And just for your information, it's only about 78% of her signature weapon, and that's honestly a pretty big gap, so I really recommend pulling her signature if you can afford it. Oh, and just a quick note, there's absolutely no reason to use the Beta Pass 4-star, not just because it costs real money, but because even at R5, it's still weaker than R1 Emerald. That's how bad 4-star weapons are in this game. Alright, now moving on to the echoes. The best one is easily the latest Wishes of Quiet Snowfall set, which I've spent quite a bit of time and effort getting a decent set on day 1. Not exactly perfect, but it'll do for this showcase. Oh, by the way, although Hiyuki doesn't need energy to transform, she still needs energy for the final nuke, so try getting 1 or 2 ER substats, especially if you're going with a signature weapon. Lastly, defaulted talents. For my calculation, the best upgrade is actually the basic attack, followed by the mid-defaulted circuit, and finally her liberation. Both skill and intro don't really matter, as they are even worse than the top stat upgrades. Anyway, even though she uses the new weekly materials, I actually managed to max all the important skills, thanks to the pulling event selling that. So all the numbers in this video are true free-to-play damage. Alright, so that's everything about my build, so it's time to learn how to play her. So yeah, they've done it again. Overcomplicated descriptions for minimal reason. So I'll skip all that unnecessary details and just show you what to do in her rotation, and you'll see how branded easy she actually is. Alright, so let's begin. The first step is unlocking her liberation, by simply using skill and basic attack for the charges, then follow up with a special heavy attack. This will transform her into a more powerful form. Now if you start with an intro, it instantly defuse 2 charges, skipping them up, so always start with an intro if you can. Now after transforming, just do whatever attacks you like to fill this sword. Then do a special dodge while spamming the basic attack, and lastly follow up with a special heavy attack. Now at this point, if you got enough energy, hold liberation to end with a massive nuke. And that's all. Pretty straightforward, right? That said, there's one really important mechanic that's super easy to miss. Her final nuke actually has a stat system, and it's shown among the status effects right here. Honestly, I have no idea why it isn't shown on the liberation icon just like look. Anyway, based on the description, each stat has a massive 800% multiplier to her final nuke, going up to 3300% at maximum 3 stats. And that's totally nuts, as it's almost double of Aemeath's 1800. So power creeps then, but unfortunately not so fast, and here's the catch. Each rotation only gives you 1 stat, and that's Feast. That means, except for the very first rotation where she gets 1 stat for free before entering the battle, her nuke is basically limited to 1 stack for the rest of the fight. In other words, this 3 stat nuke is pretty much a bait for S0 Hiyuki, as you can't use it without skipping rotations. So what's the point of having 3 stats limit then? Well, aside from selling her sequences, it actually allows you to control her nuke damage, as you can choose how many stats to spend from 0 to 3, depending on how long you hold the liberation button. And this is really useful against multiple waves, as you can minimize the damage loss from overkilling the enemies, saving the stats for the next wave. That's the true value of this stat mechanic. Finally, that's everything to her gameplay, so let's move on to the team build. Alright, so this is actually kinda awkward, because there's no perfect damage support for her right now. Yes, not even Lynae, and you'll soon see why. First, Hiyuki scales with liberation damage just like Aemeath, and you already know how rare liberation support is. Honestly, I would say everyone except Lynae is just barely working, especially the most free-to-play option Jenshin, who needs S2 to even function, which I don't even have. Now on the other hand, the only glacial support is 0 and she's far worse than Lupa for Aemeath. So yeah, she seriously needs Lynae support in the cloud version, and you already know how busy she is, with tons of DPS to support, especially Aemeath. And unfortunately, that's not all. Hiyuki has a passive that boosts glacial DLT damage whenever teammates apply glacial at half a DLT. And guess what? No one except Hiyuki herself can apply glacial chaff, and the only one who can apply Havoc Band is Chisa. So yeah, the final team is as clear as day. Hiyuki, Chisa, and the glacial chaff linear in the future. Lynae is more like a placeholder for now, and I'm pretty sure the new support is gonna be way better. So be ready to put that future support for Hiyuki, whoever that is. That being said, this passive of hers only buffs DLT damage, which is far from her main source of damage at all, so you're actually not losing too much not fulfilling it, which is why Lynae still works for her. Same goes for other healers replacing Chisa. By the way, speaking of healers, I'm pretty sure this is intentional, as Hiyuki can easily go over 100% crit rate by herself, which basically bans Shorekeeper. And my guess is that if they didn't do this, she'll probably end up better than Chisa, especially if you don't do the quick swap. And that's not good for business. Well, anyway, to summarize her team building, she badly needs Lynae to support her, as there's just no good alternative at all, just like Aemeath was. Chisa, on the other hand, is easily replaceable with any healer in this game, so don't worry if you don't have her. And with that, it's finally time for the team showcase. Alright, so let's start with the best possible team right now, featuring Hiyuki, Lynae, and Chisa. But just before we talk about her performance, please keep in mind her first rotation hits way harder thanks to the extra Nuke stack, so the shorter the fight, the better Hiyuki looks compared to the other DPS. Alright, so my very first impression is that Hiyuki is insanely branded against bosses, with tons of time stop in her kit, almost like Aemeath, so I had a really good time playing her. And damage? No complaints either, because she's just slightly weaker than Aemeath's full team, which is really unexpected considering Hiyuki's team is not complete yet. And that's not even close to her full potential yet, because I'm really terrible at playing Chisa. Besides, even against the mid 4, I still had over 30 seconds left when I finished, which is a really good result for a main DPS without Snatch weapon. That said, I'll still give most of the credit to the chamber buffs, as you should definitely struggle without that. On the other hand, for the Whimpering West, I'll say she's above average, roughly on par with True Natural Aemeath, but still behind Podra and Secretka. Just to let you know, I got over 2,500 on my very first try, with just a purple token. So yeah, she's decent against Clouds. Alright, by the way, Chisa is actually the biggest issue for me as her rotation is long without quick swap. So let's try other healers instead, starting with Shorekeeper, who doesn't fit Hiyuki very well due to the crit rate. But even so, she's actually right on par with Chisa to my surprise. So yeah, guess I was right. If Hiyuki didn't have so much crit rate by herself, Shorekeeper would easily outperform Chisa for us normal players. Now another healer I tried is obviously Mornye, and you know what? Just speaking from my experience, she's honestly way better than Chisa and Shorekeeper. Take this footage against the left 4 as example. I actually managed to clear it under 1 minute, and that's right on par with Aemeath and Secretka with complete teams. So yeah, I honestly have really high hopes of Hiyuki becoming the top meta once her true support releases in the next patch. Alright, although I say Hiyuki is unplayable without Lynae, I still decide to give it a try, because why not? So here comes the best free-to-play team, in which, to my surprise, is actually quite decent, which is good news. Although Sanhua doesn't provide many buffs, her quick outro actually makes up for the loss, especially if you pair her with Chisa who has long rotation. And as you see, I actually almost succeed in killing the mid 4. So yeah, if you can't afford her Lynae, then just go for Sanhua for now, until the next patch. Alright, now just before ending this video, here's my honest thoughts. Hiyuki is a really good DPS on par with Aemeath, but only if you can afford Lynae, or plan to pull a glacial support for her next patch. Otherwise, she's stuck with no proper teammates, just like Aemeath without Lynae, or Secret without Chuyen. On the other hand, Chisa is good to have, but definitely not a must, at least for now. You can easily replace her with Shorekeeper, Mornye, or even Verina with little to no loss, maybe even better depending on your playstyle. And finally, while Hiyuki is still playable with Sanhua, it's highly recommended to skip her if she's all you can afford, and save your pulls for the next complete teams. Anyway, that's my 2 cents of free-to-play Hiyuki. So if you find this helpful, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on Hiyuki in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.